And welcome to another episode of the Tar Heels Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Grant Chachere, bringing you all the latest news in regards to your North Carolina Tar Heels. Of course, I'm also the beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. So you probably see all my work littered all around the website. So, if you're wondering who Grant Chachere is, that's me. But for today's podcast, of course, North Carolina isn't playing today. Of course, they are on a bye week. But even if it's a bye week, it's been a very loud bye week. And actually, we'll get to hear from Bill Belichick on Monday from all the chaos that's happened this past week. And I can tell you this right now, guys, it ain't going to be pretty. Right? I don't think people are going to pull any punches because a lot of information was thrown out at us last week. Also, really, more so in a 72-hour span. So, it's not going to, I know some people are like, kind of, for example, we see with Dabo Swinney, we see with some coaches are on the hot seat. We see the media not pull punches. But except the difference is, I think, is that's stuff that happens on the field. A lot of there's going to be some questions about on the field for sure, right? North Carolina is going to be playing at Cal, and that's a 3,000-mile trip. So, how do you prepare for a game like that? There's going to be some preparation. There's going to be some preparation questions, some on the field questions as well. But it's mostly going to be about what happened last week or this past week. And so you're going to hear a lot of questions. I know, it's not going to be great. I can just tell you that right now. But then Wednesday, you got Freddie Kitchens, you got Steve Belichick. So there's going to be a lot of questions for those two as well. And it's just not going to be a really great media week for the coaches, especially everything that's happened this past week. And the reason why I started off with that, just to talk about that, is really because this whole week has been a mess about football, right? This whole week has been a mess. And really, I know this whole week has been a mess, but to be honest with you, the second the Board of Trustees did not follow the routine. Well, I would say they weren't not routine, but they weren't in cohesion with Bubba Cunningham. That's where all this mess started. You could have let Bubba Cunningham get his guy. You could have let him go after John Summerall. You could have let him go after Matt Campbell of Iowa State. But you didn't. And you took a huge risk to go after a 73-year-old man after you had just fired a 73-year-old man because you want to win football games. And I get Bill Belichick is a very appealing name. And I get Bill Belichick is a very successful coach. But he's never coached at the college level. And also, you already know that he's looking for an NFL job. And I get you want people to take the football program seriously. I get you want to put butts in seats. But you're seeing it has not worked right now. You're not even gaining money. You're losing money. Nobody's really interested in the program anymore. There's UNC is not going to be any primetime games. They're going to have a lot of CW games, a lot of ACC Network games because they're not very good. They're not an appealing product. They're not a good team. And from the beginning, like I said, going back to the beginning, like I said, they don't have a really good team. It's because some of the roster decision-making you had, right? They lost Amari Campbell and Bo Axon because they didn't want to give them straight up NIL deals. They wanted to be cheap. And they went off. Amari Campbell is at Penn State now. He's one of the better linebackers in the Big Ten. He has 48 tackles, or 47 tackles, five and a half tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. The last 2 games, which are against Oregon, who's one of the best teams in the country, and of course UCLA, 25 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and a sack. Bo Axon, yes, well, I would say he's kind of off to a slow start, But that slow start is 7 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and a sack against Big Ten competition, playing for Ohio State. Both those two guys I just mentioned are arguably playing the best conference in college football. Travis Shaw is at Texas. He's getting a good bit of playing time. 6 tackles, tackle for loss at Texas. He's played in all 5 games. Howard Bryant, who was your starting left tackle last year, he went to Texas Tech. He's one of the better offensive linemen in the Big 12, and he's the starting left tackle for the 9th best team in the country, a team that is going to or might be in the playoffs. They're 5-0. They look really good. They got talent all over the field, and he's playing on that team. Rodney Laura started defensive tackle UCF, another power force player. 12 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and a sack for UCF this season. Malik McGowan. Yes, I know he plays at UNLV, but he was a very experienced player at UNC, and now he's starting at UNLV. He's having a good year. He hasn't allowed a sack all year. Ryan Brown, who transferred to UNC from Purdue, and then and you see at UNC, and then he transferred back to Purdue. Yes, I know his interception total is high. He's had 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, but he's thrown for 1,338 yards and averaging 267.6 yards per game. He's averaging more passing yards per game than what UNC is totaling as an offense as a whole. UNC has not thrown for 1,000 yards in a season as a team. They're only averaging 162.6 yards per game. That's 105 yards less than what Ryan Bryant averages a game. And you want to know why? Because Michael Lombardi doesn't know how to build a roster. He wasn't a very successful executive in the NFL. Yes, he's a hell of a media member. He's awesome in the media. There's a reason why a lot of shows keep asking him to go back on. He's good in the media, but he ain't good at his job, the job that he's worked in, 30 years now as an executive? He's not good at roster management. Not only that, he's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way because, I worked in the NFL. You don't know what you're doing. He thinks Michael Lombardi and Bill Belichick think they can still win X's and O's, just like you did in the NFL. The problem with the NFL compared to college football is that college football is about talent acquisition. Yes, NFL, you need to have as many good guys as possible. However, there's a lot of parity in NFL compared to college football. A lot more. In college football, if you don't have the talent, you're not going to win many games, no matter what conference you are in. And some of the guys I just mentioned, right? For example, Bo Jackson, if he's good enough to start at Ohio State, he's definitely good enough to start at UNC. Especially when one of your starting defensive ends was at Delaware last year. You let a guy go who was a solid all ACC caliber player. You let him go to Ohio State for a guy from Delaware and a backup defensive lineman from Penn State. Bryce Yates, a guy who gets signed in the transfer portal, which, by the way, I'm still very high on. I still think he could be a good player. He was out for the first 4 games of the year because of injury, and your pass rush suffered for it. You have issues with the offensive line. Howard Bryant is one of the better offensive linemen in the Big 12. You let him go. For what? Now, Austin Blasky, who really should be your starting center or guard, is starting at left tackle because you got nobody else. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you know what's even worse? You know what just came out yesterday? You want to know what just came out yesterday? So there was an article in The Athletic by Bruce Feldman. I think it's Bruce Feldman. I think Brendan Marks, of course, does stuff for UNC for The Athletic. They did a report. It's him, Bruce Feldman, Brendan Marks, and I forgot who the other person was. I actually pull up the article right now to make sure I get the right authors. Okay, yeah, here we go. Bruce Feldman, Brendan Marks, and Stuart Mendel. Stuart Mendel, of course, is the editor-in-chief, as the editor for college football at The Athletic. And what they found out was that Chandler Morris, yes, that Chandler Morris, starting quarterback Virginia, who right now, in my opinion, probably is the offensive player of the year in the ACC. You can make a solid case for that. He was really interested in coming to UNC and wearing a Carolina blue uniform. However, UNC turned him down because the program didn't think what he has takes. Bill Belichick's general manager, Michael Lombardi, told UNC staffers of Chandler Morris, you just don't understand what it takes to play in the National Football League. Morris signed for Virginia, a program that hasn't had a winning season since 2019, where he's led the Cavaliers into the top 20. What are you talking about? He's not good enough to play in the NFL. You need to win games now. This is college football. You got to win games in the college football. Stop thinking. If you're acquiring players through the transfer portal because you don't think that they're good enough for the NFL, have you lost your mind? Have you lost your mind? Yes, I understand not everyone's meant for the NFL, but there's a lot of really good college football players that can help you win games now. I don't care if he's 5'11" or 6 foot. He started at TCU. He balled out of North Texas. And clearly, he's good enough to play at Virginia because right now, Virginia looks like they could be a college football playoff team. I'm not even joking. They look really good. Of course, things have to work out, but they look like a really good team. And it's because of Chandler Morris. Chandler Morris turned around. I mean, Virginia's not a very good program, right? Last year, I believe they went 5-7. The year before that, they went 3-9. Like I said, they haven't had a winning season since 2019. And in just 1 year, they've already won as many games as they did the year before. And we're only halfway through the season. It's because of him. Like, what are you doing? And then Michael Lombardi has the nerve to be like, oh, we're in a rebuild. It's going to take 2 or 3 years. My brother in Christ, this isn't 2015. This isn't 2005. This is the transfer portal era. You can put up a good team in 1 year. Just look at Indiana. Indiana has been a terrible college football program forever. Forever. ESPN did a special on Lee Corso, right? And they talked about his time as head coach at Indiana. When they won the Holiday Bowl to go 8-4 in a season, they treated that like the national championship. That's how bad Indiana has been as a program. That's how bad they've been. And 1 year, Kirk Cignetti, after they went 3-9, they had an 11-1 year and went to the college football playoff. And we're talking about Indiana, by the way. And Indiana doesn't have nearly the same amount of football traditions as North Carolina does. Not even close. Yes, I know North Carolina hasn't won an ACC championship in 1980, but North Carolina's got some tradition. They've had way more success than Indiana. Way more. Matter of fact, they've been to a conference championship. Indiana still has it as a program. And then you were like, oh, well, we got 40 high school players coming in. That's not normal. You're not supposed to have 40 high school players coming in. Ever. Ever. I don't care who you are. That is absolutely ridiculous. You got to win now. They didn't hire Bill Belichick to rebuild. They hired Bill Belichick to win. They paid him $10 million per year over a 5-year span. Well, we have a top 20 class coming in. If you sign 40 players, you better have a top 20 class. It's mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, if you have to sign 40 players in one class, you've lost your mind. I'm going to just put this in perspective. So, North Carolina has 36 commits. Now, a few of them, I think, a few of them decommitted. But if you look across the board, right, UNC signed 32, Georgia signed 31, depends on you need. But if you look at most of the programs, they're 22, 27, 27, 21. Like Texas 21, Oregon is 17, Tennessee is 24, Ohio State is 20. That's where you should be. Because the transfer portal and also based off of need. You don't need that. Like, if you had brought all those 40 players in, you would be over the roster limit. So you have to start cutting players. So who would you cut? You know? Like, if you have 36 players, you better be the 17th ranked class in the country. Because some of the programs are around. Penn State is 25. Clemson is 20. South Carolina is 16. Washington is 21. Ole Miss is 19. Oklahoma is 21. BYU has 20. You better be in the top 20. You just had 36 kids. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be good, right? A lot of things going to happen. I mean, they don't know. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And I've already talked about all this stuff that's happened during the season. Guys, they don't know what they're doing. And I understand that we have to give Belichick time. Not really. Not really, because it's a transfer portal era. I get where you're coming from, but the man's 73 years old. Now, if he was 40 or 45, and shoot, he could even be 60. Then I'll be like, okay. But he's 73 years old. And by the way, the only reason why he took the job is because he wants to go back to the NFL. That's it. That's it. That's it. Like, you have to, I mean, with all the chaos in the program, with the possible NCAA violations, which, by the way, is insane, especially at this day and age, to get NCAA violations for recruiting and improper benefits. Just to let you know. What makes you think this is going to be a winning program at the moment? With everything you've seen, with the way the coaching staff is being built up, with a lot of coaches, with two of Belichick's kids, Michael Lombardi's kid, who's never been a quarterback's coach, a full-time quarterback's coach at any level, Armand Hawkins and Troy Nichols, who's your other linebackers coach. This is their first full-time position job, where they're the guys in charge of that position. Jamie Collins has never coached football. He has played football for a very long time, was a very good player in the NFL, but he's never coached. Like, the only legit coaches you have on the staff are Mike Prefer, the special teams coach, the receivers coach, Garrett McGee, who's been a college football lifer, was even a head coach at UAB. Has also called plays before. Will Friends coached a lot of different programs around the country, including Tennessee. He's coaching the SEC. Bob Diaco was a head coach of UConn, was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame when they went to the national championship in 2012, was on LSU staff last year. And I know Bob Diaco. He was on the staff at LSU last year as the defensive line coach. Well, not the defensive line coach, but I think he was an outside linebackers, but he was a position coach at LSU. So you have those guys who've coached college football for a very long time, but everybody else is either barely coached at the collegiate level or is in their first full-time coaching gig. Like, that's not how you run a winning program. They built the program. The way they built this roster was awful. They thought they could do user X. They thought they could outsmart everybody with the X's and O's, not the actual talent on the field. And guess what? They all thought you know what the crazy thing is? No one mentioned, by the way, I just want to make this very clear. I was there in the fall. They did not mention a rebuild one time. They did not mention a rebuild one time. And I even asked some members, I even asked some of the guys on the UNC bid as well. Has Bill Belichick ever mentioned a rebuild during the spring? They said no. They actually thought they were going to win with this roster. That's why they had the Hulu crew. That's why they had all these different documentaries lined up. I mean, they all thought they were going to win, and it's blown hard in their face. Now, everyone around the country, and even some in Chapel Hill, have just laughed because they think this is a joke. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Bill Belichick, at the moment in time, the way he's running this program is a joke. But also, Mike Lombardi has not done any favors whatsoever. And really, you can even make the case that he's the main culprit in all of this. It's an absolute mess. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry if I dropped a lot of stuff on this pod, a lot of information, but that's how it is right now in Chapel Hill. And we're going to find more about this football team on Monday with Bill Belichick speaking on the podium. And then also Steve Belichick, his son, Steve's coordinator, and Freddie Kitchens, the offense coordinator, will be speaking on Wednesday. So we're going to have a lot of information coming to you in the next couple of days. So I appreciate you guys catching up with everything on the site. And thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, I'm your host, Grant Chachere, bringing you all the latest news in regards to your North Carolina Tar Heels. And also, I am the lead beat writer for North Carolina Tar Heels on SI. You guys have a great rest of your college football Saturday, and I'll see you guys later.